or I can't find a man at all, but yet you support a lifestyle that is going to reduce the available pool of black men and make it even smaller than what it already is. You are either for the black family or you are not. You cannot be for the black family and be for a lifestyle that is eroding the fabric of the black family.
Well, being the only woman here, I would just like to say that people have been homosexual for centuries. Forever. For thousands of years. Homosexuality is not...
The Greeks was gay.
Nothing, there's nothing new about homosexuality.
It comes out of Greco-Roman culture. There is no history of homosexuality in Africa prior to European contact.
There are people,
and if there is, I'd like to see the proof.
What about people in Igbo cultures of intersex people? Like all this different genders.
Okay, most homosexuals are not intersex.
It's not.
Most lesbians are not intersex.
I'm talking about genders,
there's
not
no such thing as a lesbian. That's fake.
Sexuality is a choice. Gender is a choice. But I believe that
gender's a choice.
Yes,
gender is not a choice.
If you're born with a penis or a vagina, you're chosen.
Gender is not a choice.
Gender is not a choice. Scientifically, sex is how we determine if a person is male or female. Your sexuality is not a choice.
Dr. Umar Johnson,
born a male or a female, that's not. Your gender is how you are seen by society.
That is my young engineer.
According to who?
Scientifically.
According to who? Because that has no precedent in traditional African culture. So where are you getting those definitions from?
Run for public office.
That's a great idea.
That is how we move the needle.
I got a question for you.
Yes.
Why do you think that people refuse to accept that reality? That
because
9 times out of 10, you are not going to be a professional athlete.
That is a very good question. My guest is going to help us deal with that mental illness. And I took the liberty, so did he, to listen to the Opinionator show. And you guys discussed the drugs and the alcohol that becomes your plan B or C to life's failures. My guest is a clinical psychologist, child psychologist, and much like his ancestor, he is a man ahead of his time. And in some cases, people really need to pay attention because he knows the way, and the way is standing on your square and being unapologetically black. Give it up for Dr. Umar Johnson. Dr. Umar Johnson, welcome to the show.
Peace and black power. Thanks for having me, brother.
Hello, brother.
And peace to the queen.
Hello, how are you?
I don't know if you were aware of this, sir, but we have been in mourning now for almost 2 weeks, and it all culminated this weekend, leading all the way into Roddy Piper screaming at the fans, reminding us how awesome, Kobe was. And then he said, now let's give it up for the greatest player in NBA, LeBron James. And I thought to myself, okay, now LeBron has to be the Negro that they are comfortable with. Before I introduced you, sir, Sister Yolanda was asking the question, why do we convince ourselves that my child, I'm going to invest hundreds and thousands of dollars, and that's what the Mamba League is. It is a elite youth football program.
Basketball, right?
Basketball, baseball, softball.
Oh, they got all
soccer.
Sports. Okay.
They have all trainers. They have everything that will get your child, nutritionists, you name it. Unfortunately, they don't have money for your baby. Okay? And that was one of the things I was thinking about. But to answer that question, Dr. Umar Johnson, why would we continue to, let's face it, lie to our children and convince them you the next God body, LeBron, Kobe, whatever? What is the deal with that, sir?
Well, there's a couple of issues. First among which is the fact that the African American community values its entertainers and athletes above and beyond its scientists and professionals. So that's number one. We value our athletes more than we value our scholars. I work in schools. Even in academically inclined schools, you still see more attention being played to athletes who may be underachieving academically. Even if they're failing, they get more attention than the children who are excelling academically. So we send a very clear message to our children that we love athletics more than academics. The schools do it. The community does it. The churches do it. Okay, if you end up going to a Division I school, or if you end up being, in the playoffs in your high school program, you're going to be on the front page of the Daily News. You may never get put on the front page of the Daily News for being a straight A student, for making an honor roll, for making a National Junior Honor Society. So that's number one. Number two, too often educated black men abandon our black boys in the cities for a life in a white suburb, and we often talk about why our young men follow the rappers and they all want to be athletes. Well, guess what? All the professional black men moved out, and many of them moved out with a white girl or a Chinese girl or a Latino girl. What the dentist no longer lives next door. The principal no longer lives next door. The psychologist no longer lives next door. The engineer no longer lives next door. Even the plumber and the electrician and the carpenters, they no longer live next door. They have ran away to the suburbs. So our black boys are starving for role models other than athletes.
Brother, I must admit, I got a little money, bought me a house about 80 miles outside of Los Angeles, got a good deal up in Palmdale, and coached youth activities. It is one of those lies that we use as a promise to, achieve greatness. And, one day I'm going to be the person that, this society going to, accept and love and appreciate. I have a question, sir. What happens when meritorious manumission, and I had a gentleman on, he's a very well-learned lawyer.
You gotta say that word for me again. I like that one.
Meritorious manumission becomes, Gail comes to mind. There are three ways you can win your slave papers. This is law. This is in the books. There are three ways a black person can win your freedom and have your papers and you're not owned anymore. You can save a white man's life, make a white man rich, or snitch out your people. Is it something that is bred into our psyche now, to where, the people who come to mind are two brothers who made white men rich, Matt Barnes, who played in the NBA, and Steven Jackson. These are two brothers that they have their own podcast, and they have come from the struggle. And how do we get those brothers who may have, opened up the decadent veil and seen the other side, like, oh, look, I can be a baller and make this money, and then realize, wait a minute, I'm part of the meritorious manumission. I want to get back to giving to my people. How do we reach those people, brother?
Well, I'm not sure if you can. I really believe that most black celebrities and athletes are collateral damage. I believe that they belong to corporate America. They are corporate property, corporate products. We don't own them. They are not accountable to us. The LeBron Jameses of the world, so forth and so on. And I respect LeBron James. I don't have an issue. But at the end of the day, there's not an athlete or an entertainer I'm aware of who's willing to risk their status and their relationship vis-a-vis the white power structure to fight for black people. They may talk a little bit, they may give voice to some of our concerns, but at the end of the day, they're not willing to sacrifice their livelihood for the best interest of black people. We basically have to take them for what they are, entertainers. They give our children something to look at on TV. They are a alternative to the white entertainer and the white athlete, which does serve a place in the psychological mind of black youth, because they do need to see themselves represented on television. But above and beyond that, they're politically and economically useless to the black community.
Well, you mentioned LeBron James. I feel like he put his money where his mouth is. He invested in his community. He didn't come out here to Calabasas, where he lives, and build a school. He built a school in Akron, and he started from babies. And
unfortunately, it's not just for blacks, though. He didn't.
And it's not his school. It's not his school. It's an Akron public school.
Well, it's chartered through his foundation, correct?
Charter schools are chartered through the state.
Right, but I'm just saying his foundation was the money that was behind the idea of it, correct?
No, most of the money comes from the taxpayers of Ohio. What LeBron James did, and I think it is commendable, though, although I would still criticize him, because a multimillionaire shouldn't be opening up a charter school. A multimillionaire should be opening up an independent school, and that doesn't just speak to LeBron. That speaks to Jalen Rose. That speaks to Sean Puffy Combs. That speaks to all these black millionaires who are opening up charter schools. Does it make sense for a millionaire to be getting a welfare check? Absolutely not. So why are you opening up a charter school? That is public money. 75% of the money that goes into the LeBron James school is taxpayer dollars. He contributed about 25% of it. It is a charter school. Most of the teachers are white. The curriculum is white. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate what he's doing in terms of the incentives, paying for the young men to go to college, paying for their parents to go to college. I think that is a very beautiful incentive. But again, coming from the perspective of a Pan-Africanist, that's not enough for me, given who you are and what you have to offer. You know, you're LeBron James. Why couldn't you open your own school that you control? Bring black educators together, have them create a black curriculum. It doesn't have to be a Pan-African nationalist academy like the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, because that's not who you are. You're a corporate commodity, but it can still be something more than a bunch of white females running around miseducating black boys again, only this time it's under your name. What is the difference here?
Let's stay on that right there. You, sir, you mentioned the Pan-African Marcus Garvey Academy. When you get to Los Angeles, I want you to stop by the Marcus Garvey schools. There's one right here on Slauson.
Yes, I've been.
And these are, I can tell you from experience coaching youth activities, the real parents who showed up at the practices and at the games, they would introduce themselves to the coach and they would let you know, do not influence my child beyond teaching them the fundamentals of this game, because there is a miseducation that our children suffer through. And shout out to all of the philanthropists who think they are doing something, you know, okay, I make these millions of dollars. Let me talk to my Jewish, accountant and lawyers and let them know, hey, man, instead of paying taxes, can y'all help me reroute this money into programs? To be honest with you, a lot of that money goes to bar mitzvahs, okay? But if we have someone like yourself, sir, and the Marcus Garvey schools that already are in place, is there a way we can, and I ask him this question every time we talk, is there some way we can convince these few brothers who are entertainers, singers, actors, ball players, invest in the curriculum? Because let's face it, even though this is an election cycle and you have these fake politicians pandering, even Bloomberg came out with a black agenda. Come on, man. Family, don't be fooled. We need someone who knows what our children need and is already at the forefront of it. How dare you have conversations about things like what the black people in this country need, and you are not willing to speak to someone who is already doing the work like yourself, Dr. Umar Johnson. It is going to be us, not just, us poor folk, but either you are a boule bourgeoisie Negro or you give a damn about your people.
Why can't you be both?
Please help us with that one, brother. Are they trying to be both, or do they really?
You can't be both, because you can't serve two masters. Jesus Christ told us that in the Bible. You will love one and hate the other, or despise one and love the other. You can't serve two masters. And I think that is the contradiction of not only our black celebrity class, but the black bourgeoisie in general. Even my colleagues, the so-called middle-class African-American professionals with the master's degrees and the doctorate degrees, they often try to serve two masters, and you can't, because the agenda of black America is in direct contradiction to the agenda of white America. You can't serve the oppressed and the oppressor. You can't do it. You have to. You can't serve the slave and the slave master. You can't do it. You have to pick and choose. But I always say that if you were not concerned about black people when you were poor, you damn sure not going to be concerned with black people when you get rich.
Wow.
And I think we need to recognize that many of our celebrities don't come from homes where they were raised to care about the community. Many of them, like many of us, come from homes where it was all about doing the best you can, getting out of this neighborhood. You know, black parents as a community push a culture of individualism and intense competition. We do not preach collective unity, work, and responsibility. We are very much in competition with each other in every aspect of black America, and it shows in everything that we do. Black people love nothing more than competing and outdoing other black people. Will Smith said it best. He said, black people spend too much money we do not have, buying things we do not need to impress people we don't even like.
Wow. I have another brother in the studio who wanted to ask you a question. Introduce yourself, my man.
My name is Kevin Holmes. Dr. Umar Johnson, I've followed you for quite some time now, a couple of years actually. I've saw several of your interviews. The question that I have is that, so all what you're saying, okay, so I'm a single. I actually raised a young black man. I was a business owner, homeowner, all this kind of stuff, and I promoted employing my own black youth. Okay, trying to give them an avenue, somewhere to, you know, learn a trade, make some money,
stay out of trouble,
you know, and it seems like you fighting a losing battle, but you continue to fight. You do get tired, but you continue to fight. The problem that I have is that we try to put these emphasis on these celebrities and these millionaires and stuff like that, and they're not really concerned with us. So to me, it seems as though, you know, the movement has to actually start from the grassroots. We can't be concerned with what they're thinking and what they want to do, because they're not really concerned with what we've got going on, you know, in the neighborhood. So
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. And then when we look at most of our major grassroots organizations, whether it be the greatest of them all, the Marcus Garvey movement, which is the largest black movement in modern history, it was not built with money from black celebrities and athletes. You look at the Nation of Islam. Yes, they had their moments with with Muhammad Ali and others, but they were not built with money from athletes and entertainers. You look at the civil rights movement. Yeah, they had Harry Belafonte making contributions from time to time, and they had Dick Gregory making contributions from time to time. But by and large, most of our major black movements, the Black Panther Party being another one, right out of Oakland, California, they were not built with contributions from celebrities and entertainers. So, and they had less money than we have today. If they could build movements like that with less capital than we have today, why do we keep looking to athletes and entertainers to save us? And I'll tell you why. Because we are not interested in taking on the responsibilities of liberation. The last thing black people want to talk about is spending their money on black independence. The last thing black people want to talk about is having to take some of their leftover disposable after tax income and contributing that into community restoration. We don't want no parts of the responsibilities of revolution. And that's why praying and voting continue to be so important to black people. We overvalue voting and we overvalue praying. Not that they're not important, but guess what? The reason we put them on the pedestal that we do is because we're not interested in using our money to change things. So we rather wait on Jesus and wait on Obama to do it for us.
Dr. Johnson, I need to hand clap that. I just kind of want to push back on that just a little bit. So I think a lot of what happens is, you know, because you have a lot of you have a conscious movement going, at least here in Los Angeles. You have a real conscious movement going on here in the city of Los Angeles. Problem is you have a lot of, you know,
mentally ill. Say it.
quasi, fake scholar, halfway conscious, So when you take somebody like me, okay, who works pretty hard for his money, and I don't have a problem putting the money up, doing the volunteer work, participating in the community events, and the neighborhood councils, and telling people not to sell their houses because we're being gentrified and this, that, and the other. How do we find the actual organizations, or how do we obtain the actual organizational skills to actually make this happen, to make it mean something?
Here's what we need to yes, sir. Here's what we need to understand, and let me remind my California family that Dr. Umar Johnson, God willing, will be out there with all of you next weekend. I will be in Long Beach on Saturday, March the 7th, for the Black Parent Know Your School Rights Training Tour Boot Camp. That's from 9 a.m. until 9 p.m., 516 West Esther Street in Long Beach. 516 West Esther Street in Long Beach, 9 to 9, 12 hours of power, Know Your School Right Black Parent Tour. They can register at drumarjohnson.com. And the very next day, on Sunday, March the 8th, I will be at the Blessed Love Cultural Center, 1404 Vernon Avenue at 4 p.m. for my State of the Race Community Power Lecture. So Saturday is the training in Long Beach. Sunday is the lecture in Los Angeles. Here's what I want to say. Racism is winning against black people because racism does not depend on individuals. Racism creates systems, it creates institutions, and it creates processes that carry out its machinations. Black people don't have any systems, we don't have any institutions, and we don't have any processes in place. So you have to do the best you can. I have to do up to the best that I can. The other brother and sister have to do the best that they can, because we, as a people, are not yet ready to build the systems and institutions we need to sustain the liberation work that we do. Because most of us have our priorities in the wrong place. If you ask the average black person to write down their top 10 priorities in life, revitalizing the black community would be at the bottom of the list if it is on the list at all.
Wow.
Building independent schools would be at the bottom of the list if it is on the list at all. Building independent hospitals, distribution networks, banks would be at the bottom of the list if it is on the list at all. I want to say this and shut up. Black people do not have a problem with white supremacy. I want to make sure we understand this, and I'm going to talk about this next Sunday. Black people do not have a problem with white supremacy. We have a problem with the level of comfortability that white supremacy has given us to live under. If white people would ease the pressure that it puts on black people, we would help them stay in charge for another 1,000 years.
Wow. Those people who are living that comfortable life, I believe I saw one of your interviews, sir, and you called them the gatekeepers, the new gatekeepers who are, and when we say comfortable, we ain't talking about millionaires. We talking about you got a few thousand now.
Nice house, nice car, cell phone, vacation.
You can have $13 rent and live in the projects and be comfortable, because you can have barbecues on Tuesday and have a jumper, and your kids got a PlayStation and a flat screen,
get them Jordans,
and they comfortable. And so you don't have to have any money to be comfortable, as long as you have a refrigerator full of food and you got a little piece of car and you can get your wig and your eyelashes
and my weed and my alcohol.
Yeah, you comfortable. You got your malt liquor or whatever your vice is. You comfortable. So
right. Remember the Black Power struggles of the 70s.
Yes.
There's a saying that many of our revolutionary brothers walked into the government chambers across America with a black fist up, and when the white folks inside the government chamber started giving out applications, they took an application and put their fist down. They thought that they were interested in change. They thought they wanted to transform the society. But once they were given a job, they forgot all about transformation of the society, because now I'm in a position to get an apartment, to get me a television set, to get me some nice sneakers, to give me something to wear out to the club on the weekend. Most of us are hypocrites. We don't really want to end racism. We don't want to end inequity. We don't want to end inequality. We don't want to end discrimination. We want to improve our level of comfort under the existing inequitable society.
Okay, but Dr. Johnson, this is Kevin again. So I'm still kind of pushing back on it because I don't believe that it's not that we don't want to
desire to own our community.
I mean, it's
not like we're inherently lazy.
Well, it's like,
it's not about being lazy.
Yes, collectively and politically we are.
Well,
I want to be very clear.
Individually,
we're not lazy.
I think ignorance.
Individually, you were not lazy, but collectively, as a community, we have done nothing on a collective basis since Dr. King's assassination 52 years ago. If we have, tell me what it is. We haven't changed nothing in 52 years.
Right.
Well, I think because of our ignorance and it's just not.
It's not ignorance. We're not interested.
Well, I don't believe that.
It's not ignorance. We're not interested.
It's preoccupation. We're preoccupied with other things. There are things that are put in front of us that
those are things
keep
that
us pacified.
Absolutely.
Whether it's
priorities
the church,
are not in order.
whether it's the church, whether it's football, whether it's the party, whether it's weed, whether it's
more important things to do. Yeah. More important things to do. Priorities are out of order.
Absolutely, because the people who are in the most debt don't care that they are in debt. They're not paying their bills. They got bad credit and they don't care.
That's not true.
That is true.
It's because they don't know what debt is, though.
Absolutely. They don't know how to make it work for them.
I don't think that
they're not interested in doing what it takes to. My girlfriend Felicia has us doing a 21 fast, the 21 financial fast. Half of us fell off because we couldn't stop drinking Starbucks. We couldn't stop.
You're too addicted to your routine.
We're addicted to our routine. It's hard to not spend money on anything except for a necessity.
Let me switch reels real fast, Dr. Umar Johnson. I do believe the Black Parent Boot Camp is essential. It is, we can sit here and complain and debate and argue all day, but we need some guidelines and some structure to the next move we're going to make. This is one of the taboo subjects that I need you to speak on at the Black Parent Boot Camp. Whew. I have little cousins, men and women, who are gay. And when we was growing up, Yolanda, she looked a lot younger than me, but she's about my age. And so is Kevin. It was not acceptable to be gay growing up in LA. If you was, you better keep that on the hush, on the down low. You cannot just run around flaming back in the 70s and 80s and early 90s. You might get beat up. Today, you even had Lil Boosie and his son on social media, and unfortunately, we use social media all the wrong way. It's sad. They were letting you know, we're not rocking with the Wade family on gender identifying babies. Will you touch on that topic, please, Dr. Johnson?
Well, I am of the firm opinion that the Creator only made two genders. For 99% of human history, there have only been two genders. All of a sudden, in post-Obama America, and he had a big role to play in this, all of a sudden, we now have about 6, 7, 8 different genders now. And it is absolutely ridiculous. And to me, it is a form of cultural imperialism. Because black people, coming from an African tradition, although we've had our struggles with the LGBT movement, that is not something that we openly advocated and advertised, and we never accepted it as a normal way of things. That's the difference. Although we may have always had homosexuality, as you mentioned a minute ago, there was an etiquette to it. You would not bring that around the children. You would not discuss that around the children. You will keep it with you. Now it is changed. Now it is out front in your face. It's being taught to the children in school. I actually predicted this about 20 years ago, and people called me crazy when I said they would start teaching homosexual studies in the schools. Well, it's there now.
And they don't even teach African American studies in the school. They don't even teach African studies in the school.
They don't even teach black history, but they will teach gay studies. Not only that, there's currently a movement for homosexual reparations. they're arguing that gay people are entitled to reparations for all the years that they were not allowed to get married and all the years that there was a stigma against them. So they also want reparations like black people want reparations. But here's the thing I want to be clear about. There's no such thing as a gay child. There is no such thing as a gay 7, 8, 9-year-old child. That situation that's going on with Dwayne Wade's son, to me, it's hurtful. And it's hurtful because you don't allow a 12-year-old child to make a permanent, irreversible decision about their life.
Right.
Now, if he wants to make that decision when he turns 18 as a grown man, that's different. But at 12 years old, you're only in the 6th grade, 7th grade, 5th grade in some cases. You don't even know who you are yet. How dare your father let you make an irreversible decision that's going to affect you for the rest of your life? What if that young man turns 30 or 40 or even 21 and begins to revolt against this new lifestyle that his parents allowed him to select for himself? What happens when he starts going through depression and drug addiction and alcoholism and promiscuity because he's now upset at the fact that he should have never been allowed to make this type of decision? We have to stop letting America dictate how we raise our children.
Dr. Johnson, it's been suggested that I don't know what the homosexual movement or whatever you want to call it is like a direct assault on black masculinity.
I don't agree with that.
Well, and it is a direct assault on black masculinity. There's a new term that's called toxic masculinity, where they basically want to demonize, masculinity. And all of this is about eugenics. All of this is about population control. All of this is about the destruction of the black family. And let me say this point, and I'll be quiet on this one. Black women need to really check themselves on this issue of toxic black masculinity and on this issue of feminism and on this issue of promoting and proliferating LGBT lifestyles amongst our children. And the reason black women in particular have to be on guard for their own hypocrisy is because you can't, on the one hand, say there's not enough black men to go around and I can't find a good man or I can't find a man at all, but yet you support a lifestyle that is going to reduce the available pool of black men and make it even smaller than what it already is. You are either for the black family or you are not. You cannot be for the black family and be for a lifestyle that is eroding the fabric of the black family.
Well, being the only woman here, I would just like to say that people have been homosexual for centuries. Forever. For thousands of years. Homosexuality is not...
The Greeks was gay.
There's nothing new about homosexuality.
It comes out of Greco-Roman culture. There is no history of homosexuality in Africa prior to European contact.
There are people,
and if there is, I'd like to see the proof.
What about people in Igbo cultures of intersex people? Like all this different genders.
Okay, most homosexuals are not intersex.
It's not.
Most lesbians are not intersex.
I'm talking about genders,
There's
not
no
homosexuality.
such thing as a lesbian. That's fake.
Sexuality is a choice. Gender is a choice. But I believe that
gender's a choice.
Yes,
gender is not a choice.
If you're born with a penis or a vagina, you're chosen.
Gender is not a choice. Gender is not a choice.
Scientifically, sex is how we determine if a person is male or female. Your sexuality is not a choice.
Dr. Umar Johnson,
born a male or a female, that's not. Your gender is how you are seen by society.
That is my young engineer.
According to who?
Scientifically.
According to who?
What science?
Because that has no precedent in traditional African culture. So where are you getting those definitions from? You're getting them from white people.
You're
getting them from white people.
If scientifically we
white
define
dictionary.
male,
No, that's not scientific. That is not
scientifically we all.
That's just like saying black and white. It's something that they made up. Black and white is fake.
Exactly.
So if we all
gonna
agree
go
to
through
understand that sex is how we determine
it's really
if a person
African
is,
and non-African.
If we all agree that it's sex is how we determine if a person is male or female, then that is how we identify a person's sex. How we identify their gender is how we see this person. If they're more masculine or feminine, it's a social understanding rather than
in
a
African
scientific
culture,
understanding.
sex and gender are not separable.
Right. And I agree with that.
Sex and gender are not separable. You are not born a man but choose to be a woman. That is anti-African propaganda. That is white folk stuff. That is not ours.
Dr. Umar Johnson, that is my young millennial engineer who, for the most part, I love hearing their
perspective.
His perspective is interesting.
Well, we must allow the dialogue. It's healthy.
But
healthy. We must allow the dialogue. He grew up grew up in a generation that has to face this type of a thing. When you and I went to school, we didn't have to choose if we wanted to be a boy or a girl. We didn't have that choice.
It was not part of
our boys. It was just we never even thought about being a girl.
However, there were always people. However, there were always people who were feminine or who were masculine. So
yes, there were, Queen. But here's the point that I want to make sure you get. Mm-hmm. I agree with you. We've always had to deal with an undercover brother in the community. That's not the issue, though. The issue is the systematic promotion of that behavior as a normal alternative lifestyle. Yes. That's the issue. The issue ain't whether we had gay people. The issue is whether or not we ever promoted it as a normal choice of life for our children. That's the issue.
And
well,
it's a
who
tool
are we
that
to say that it's not normal for them? It's their normal.
It's
not our normal, but it's their normal.
No, I'll tell you what's normal, okay? Because psychology determines what's normal and what's not. What's normal is what is in the best interest of the community. That's normal. So for black people, what is the benefit of the open promotion of lesbianism, homosexuality, bisexuality, and transgenderism? Give me one benefit that accrues to the black community by promoting that. I can give you a bunch of detriments. Can you give me one benefit?
The benefit is that they are happy being who they are.
No. I said, what is the benefit to the community? You're giving me individual benefit.
Well, I guess the happy people would be better people in the community if they live in their true self. If you live in your truth, then you live in your truth. It's not for me to say what your truth is. I wouldn't let a child. I wouldn't let a child do that.
That's what communities do. Communities determine culture, and culture is the collective way that we're going to behave.
But we live in a white culture. We live in a white culture. We just black people living in a white culture.
A white culture, sister. No. Don't run away from the question. We're talking about the black community. What is in the best interest for us? Not them, us. How does letting men marry men help save the black family? It doesn't.
Well, if it's going to be a
family, black men, it doesn't.
Dr.
It ain't about individual preferences. It's about the best interest of the community. And the problem with us, we are so individualized. We are so selfish that we can't even begin to wrap our minds around subjugating our personal preferences to the best interest of the race. And that's what's wrong with black people. We're the only people in the country who cannot subjugate your personal selfish agenda and make it second behind the best interest of the community. And that's why we're losing.
And that is why it is important, sir, for people like yourself. I want to personally thank you. You are ahead of your time. People will not understand you for the most part. People will not, just like your ancestor who was ahead of his time. And I pray that you are not too late and others like you are not too late, because what's going to happen is the few that do listen, that are conscious, it is going to be upon us to be the example of this is my true position in the village. As a man, as a father, as a husband, as a whatever that position is, and that has to be instilled in the parents. I can remember coaching young kids who mama might be selling her cell phone Figueroa, or no daddy at the house. Coach, I'm hungry. Can we stop and get something to eat? Boy, when you get home, somebody will feed you. Far from the truth. And not only would no one feed him, the 2 hours that I spent with him is the only 2 hours that anyone gave this child any attention and catered to them, to the point where when you send them back, if you send these kids back to parents who are not good parents, that little 2 hours meant nothing. And that is why I do believe a lot of our young, if you shun a child, he will burn the village to feel its warmth.
So what if we gonna shun the gay people? That is
Doctor, good question, Dr. Umar Johnson. How do we reach young brother who decided I'm gonna change my name to Skittles and I'm gonna wear gay stuff and paint? Do we?
Here's what I say, because
I love you, Skittles. I love you, brother, but I had to.
I've been on radio shows with members of the African American LGBTQ community. They come up to me, respectfully most of the time. They engage me in question, conversation. I've done therapy with them. Here's what I tell them. I'm not going to stop you from struggling for the best interest of your community. You have a right to do that. But your lifestyle is so in conflict and in contradiction to what I stand for that there's no way that you can join my organization and struggle next to me living such a blatant contradiction.
Wait. When did it become yours? I thought it was the community. I thought it was the community. Why is it yours?
I'm speaking, because it's the community, but we have organizations within that community.
Right.
And as I just said a second ago, if a homosexual brother or sister wants to struggle in your organization, they can struggle in your organization. But their lifestyle is a contradiction to what that I'm living my life for. So they cannot struggle with me, but I'm not going to stop them from struggling with you.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
So what gives you access to this community? Simply your skin color, right?
History, culture, land, not skin color. Skin color is only a symbol to something much deeper than that.
So
African people.
History and
the
culture.
Global African community.
Okay, history and culture and land. So what are we going to do about these people that do have access with their history, culture, and land to this that choose to make no decisions? What are we going to do with these people?
They have no place in my struggle.
Why? But see, that's
they have no place in my struggle.
The problem,
because I'll tell you why.
The
lifestyle.
Because they are a part of the community.
Let me say this, sir.
Continue.
African culture, because you have to understand what African culture is in order to understand the contradiction. We are a people that are about family. Man, woman, and child. That's who we are. We are the mothers and fathers of civilization. For an African to say that I'm not going to reproduce my ancestors because I want to love up on another man or love up on another woman, that is a contradiction of who we are. It stops the evolutionary process of black life. In our culture, there's a male for the female. There's light for dark. There's water for land. There's wet for dry. There's sun for moon. We believe that when God created the universe, he put the balance of opposites, the balance and harmony of opposite energy. So when a man decides to go with a man, you are upsetting the natural spiritual balance and equilibrium of our universe. That's why we can't accept it. It's deeper than political. It's spiritual. We cannot accept it. I can love you, but I cannot allow you in my movement. You cannot be a role model for our children. Black men need to be men, and you cannot show them an example of you loving on another man. And by any stretch of the imagination, consider that to be normal and acceptable. Hell no.
Brother, I am sold on your movement, and I don't know how to articulate it that well to my lost generation of family members who I love dearly, like you said.
But no, we got to work with them though, because we need more of that dialogue. We can't. I'm open for the dialogue. I want to be clear.
How you going?
Although they cannot struggle with me in my movement, I'm open to the dialogue because we need this dialogue, because only through dialogue can we bring clarity. So I would never shut down the conversation.
But what does this dialogue look like if you're telling a person that is homosexual that they do not have access to a community that they identify with? What is that?
We're not saying they don't have access. They're already in the community, brother.
His organization.
They're already in the community.
Oh, his
organization.
Yeah, his organization. He's just saying it's just like white people. I was watching something and they were like, well, how can a white person like me help you? He was like, you can't, because you're not you can't help me.
You can't relate.
You can't relate. You're not black.
And that's correct. A white person cannot help you.
Malcolm X said the same thing.
Yeah, that's what I think I was watching.
Brother Doc, go ahead.
How can the beneficiary of racism help the victim of racism?
All right.
Well said, brother. We are up against it, brother. Again, let the people know
Yes, indeed. Saturday and Sunday, the Prince of Pan-Africanism will be back in California for the first time in 4 years. Long Beach, Saturday, September the 7th, 9 to 9. Black Parent Know Your School Rights Conference, and then Sunday, 4 o'clock, Blessed Love Cultural Center, 1404 Vernon Avenue, for the State of the Black Race Power Lecture.
Brother,
DrUmarJohnson.com, 215-989-9858, 215-989-9858.
Brother, it's always an honor and a privilege to have you on the show. You are family. You're always welcome. Looking forward to meeting you the weekend, that first weekend in March. Listen,
yes, sir.
Continue to do the work, brother. I know sometimes it feels like you are fighting against some of the mental illness that must be corrected.
Post-traumatic slavery disease. We're not only going to make you ashamed of being black, we're going to make you ashamed of being a man.
Right.
I'm sold, brother. I'm sold. We got to save our babies.
Assault on black masculinity.
Absolutely.
I just don't think that that's the case.
I think that masculinity, I think that if we're going to start a dialogue and what has happened, while it is problematic and sometimes, I think that the dialogue and challenging masculinity and strengthening it, because for a long time, masculinity has been at a hierarchy over femininity. And the hierarchy has been extremely problematic with things like rape, sexual assault, and just a culture of us not valuing our women instead of raising up our women. So I'm not saying that I agree with everything that toxic masculinity arguments entail.
Didn't value the women.
Black ancient. Let's be real. Let's be real. Let's be honest. Let's be honest.
The ancient African.
I'm talking about right now. I'm not talking about ancient African.
We talking about with the culture.
Our culture.
We're talking about the dialogue of toxic masculinity.
The ancient African valued the black woman. She was a very significant part of
the community,
100%. And government.
100%. So today in America, a lot of black men do not show women that respect. Let's just be honest. Is that true?
Well, we've been taught that.
Because of
so it's wrong. So what they're doing is they're challenging challenging masculinity with these conversations.
I love having these conversations. I want to thank Dr. Umar Johnson for calling in.
I love it. We got to do part 2 on this.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And
I look forward to meeting you too, man.
Yes,
sir. Will do. Looking forward to y'all. Come out to Long Beach Saturday or LA on Sunday.
I'll be on Vernon. Vernon Sunday for you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right.
We are moving the needle, family. And this is an election cycle, and I would be remiss if I did not let you guys know that Super Tuesday, vote yes on Measure R. It is the closest thing to any type of prison reform. These LA County sheriffs have been running roughshod over us as a gang. We need oversight. We need less prisons and more programs. That is what Measure R is about. I can't read the emails, information on the bottom. I can't, my old eyes. But Dante, help me out with that.
You can connect with them at Reform LA Jails if you want to email them, or you can contact them at info@voteyesonr.org.
There it is, family. And listen, Dr. Umar Johnson said we put too much emphasis on the wrong things. You know, those people who are famous. Rest in peace to all of the good who died young. It is not too late to continue a legacy of a Mamba League right here in the community. We don't have one. Kobe was flying from one predominantly rich white community over and around a black community get to another.
Don't talk about that, man. He's not here right now.
I love you, Kobe. You're an inspiration to many people. You have done many great things.
But it's the truth.
I'm talking to Kobe's admirers. I'm talking about all. Even Jordan was on TV crying.
Everybody
Michael Jordan.
Was crying. It's a sad day.
If we can, and I'm gonna end the show on this. All them bootleg T-shirts that were sold. If we can raise enough money, and we already got the Forum and the Staples Center, if we're going to have Mamba League training and youth who can't afford to go to Calabasas and Orange County to be part of a Mamba League that is out of their parents' financial tax bracket. All of those people who profess to love Kobe and know that there are diamonds in our community, you need to sponsor a young man or woman, or more than one man or woman, who